The Santa Barbara Botanic Garden had a new building master plan approved in June of 2010. Now, after several years of further work on that plan, we are nearly ready to begin construction. This presentation will explain our plans for the future. First off, I want to recap what was already approved by the county. There are a few changes from what is depicted in this drawing. The garden did not get permission to add this additional residence to the property. Additionally, we did not get permission to move the cottage to the Hanson site. Instead, we did get permission to move this structure to 1140 Tunnel Road, where a previous structure was burned in the Hesesita fire. Most of the new development that was approved in two discrete stages. Phase 1 will occur on the east side of Mission Canyon Road, while Phase 2 will occur on the west side of Mission Canyon Road. There must be a break in construction activities of at least a year, and possibly up to 2.5 years, between Phase 1 and Phase 2. Phase 1 on the east side of Mission Road consists of the reconstruction of the Gain House, which burned in the Hesesita fire, the construction of a new conservation center, the construction of a new horticultural building, and the construction of new barns and workshops. Phase 2 would entail moving the cottage to 1140 Tunnel Road, tearing down the existing herbarium building, and building a new education center and a new children's lab space. Additionally, a new entrance was approved, entering from the lower end of our parking lot over a bridge across the arroyo section of the garden. Also approved was a new ticketing structure and restrooms in this location. This approved plan, however, does not take advantage of the eastern half of the garden's property to enhance the visitor experience or better communicate our mission. Much of this area remains behind the scenes to the garden visitors. There is unrealized potential in this area that some small changes to our plan can better take advantage of. We have been working closely with our neighbors and other interested members of our community to improve our approved plan. Both community groups and county agencies have provided valuable feedback on these plans and support the direction of these changes. Luckily, they have also provided specific concerns that they'd like to see addressed as we move forward in the planning process. Specifically, we have been working to reduce the total square footage of buildings, eliminating nearly 2,000 square feet from our project, moving another building into Phase 2, resulting in a 30% total reduction of building square footage in Phase 1. We were able to reduce this footprint by combining two buildings into one and gaining significant efficiencies as a result. This will reduce the total amount of impervious cover in the area, and based on our discussions with the county staff, we anticipate this proposal will be approved as an addendum to our conditional use permit. Here's what all those changes look like visually. We have approval from the fire department to eliminate a 16-foot wide paved driveway internal to the property. We will remove the parking spaces that were dug into the hillside along the entrance to the east of the property. We will not rebuild the Gain House. Instead, we will enlarge the conservation center. We will also enlarge the parking area at the top of the hill, berming around the perimeter of this area so that it is well screened. We will move the barn and support structures to lower on the site and move the horticulture building into a future development phase. With these changes, the east side of the property is ready to accommodate greater visitation. To give the two sides of the garden a greater physical and visual connection, we have looked back to the historic axis around which the garden has been built. We will connect both sides of the garden by extending the axis from the Blakesley boulder through the historic entry steps. Expanding the garden in this way presents some exciting opportunities to preserve and restore the historic west side of the garden, while also expanding our garden design styles in the eastern portion of our property. Expanding the type of design styles of the garden will help to communicate to visitors that no matter what their personal tastes in garden design, they can still use native plants to achieve their goals. Extending that visual axis across the street would reopen those historic stairs that currently look like this. Their stairs already lead the eye visually across the street, and with the addition of some steps to the east of Mission Canyon Road, this crossing might also look like this. Here is the modified version of Phase 1. In keeping with the recommendations of the Cultural Landscape Plan, we will remove the ticketing booth from the historic portion of the gardens and reopen the historic stairs, and extend these stairs to the east of Mission Canyon Road. We will move the barn and support structures off the ridge to further down on the property where the environmental impact report has already indicated it is appropriate to build. We will build the conservation center to house our conservation, research, horticulture, and administrative staff. We will enlarge the existing parking area to accommodate these spaces removed from the driveway. We will postpone construction of the horticultural building, allowing our nursery activities to remain exactly where they are. We will reuse and readapt the existing structures in Phase 1 on the west side of the road, specifically by restoring the Blakesley Library to its historic condition and using it as a visitor's gallery and moving our library collections to a fire-safe floor of the existing herbarium building, which will then be remodeled as an education building to provide dedicated library space on the bottom floor and a large classroom and education offices on the top floor. Our existing classroom, the Arroyo Room, can become a dedicated microscope lab for school tours. Finally, the cottage will become dedicated to volunteer activities such as the garden guild, small docent meetings, and other projects. We have some preliminary plans for the new conservation center. Please keep in mind that these plans are still preliminary, and we are still finalizing the exact floor plan, as well as details such as finishes and colors that have not been added to most of these images. The fire-safe basement of the Conservation Center will be designed to house over 170% of our current collections. Additionally, the basement will house our rare plant seed bank and allow us to more than double our current collection capacity. The ground floor of the building will be an important part of delivering our interpretive messages about the conservation of California's native plants. The entry lobby will have interpretive signage about plant conservation in California and our role in that effort, and it will have windows that look into our lab space where visitors can see our conservation efforts in action, with staff and volunteers processing seed and preparing herbarium specimens. This floor will also house an exhibit space, which will be flexibly arranged so it can be able to accommodate special events, or in the future, be remodeled to accommodate up to 6 staff offices. This floor will also house much of the conservation horticulture staff, as well as the staff and volunteer kitchen and break room. The top floor will house the bulk of the remaining staff, as well as visiting researchers. It will also house a large conference and classroom, as well as have a large deck which can be used for everyday picnicking or as exterior space during an event. To give you a sense of the scale of this building, here's how the Conservation Center would look from the west, specifically along a section of Tunnel Road. This image does not yet have any of the finishes that the final building will have. Here's a view of the parking lot on the east side of the garden. As you can see, the Conservation Center will have a very low profile. But what I am most excited about is the potential to have some very exciting gardens out in front of the Conservation Center on the point where the Gain House once was. When the conservation building is put in place, it will still allow for fantastic views of the mountains, as well as tremendous views of the islands, and a perfect place for a new garden composed of Channel Island endemics. To achieve all this, we have already begun a $14 million capital campaign. From that budget, $3 million will be used to improve and expand our gardens. $6 million will go into the Conservation Center, barns, and renovating existing buildings. $3 million will build out our endowment to support these increased efforts, and $2 million will go into water, sewer, parking, and other infrastructure and campaign costs. Thank you for your interest in the Santa Barbara Botanic Garden's future plans. With your support, we can make our garden more inspiring, provide improved classroom and educational spaces, and ensure that we have the scientific resources to be able to address the challenges that face us in the conservation of California's beautiful and diverse flora.